Hello everyone. So someone had asked in the comments of another video if we know anything about what the good folk might believe about the afterlife, or sort of what religion they might have. And I decided to do a video to respond to this because it's actually kind of a complicated question. And the answer depends a lot on exactly which folklore we're looking at. So, for example, if we look at Reverend Robert Kirk's Secret Commonwealth, he tells us that the good people in Scotland have no religion, that they basically have no sorts of religious beliefs, nothing that we would acknowledge that way, just nothing. So there's that. But then if we look at the fairy dwelling on Selena Moor, which is, I believe, a Cornish story, then we are told that the good folk are star worshippers, that they have a religion, but it's based in the stars and the cycle of the stars. If we look to Irish material, then we kind of have this dichotomy, if you will. We have some indications that would support a sort of paganism among the fairies, the good folk, this idea that they would be connected to the older pagan gods in different ways. It's a little unclear how specifically that would work. We also have a lot of material, again, particularly Irish, that supports this idea that at least some of the good folk would be Christian. And I know this may sound strange to some people watching this video right now, but it's actually not uncommon. We see the same thing in Middle Eastern belief with the jinn, many of whom are considered to be Muslim, following Islam. And so we see the same thing in Western European fairy lore, this idea that not necessarily many, but at least some, an unknown amount of some, of the fairies are Christian. This may have to do with the connection between the good folk and the human dead, or the various ways that people fit the good folk into different cosmology, including Christian cosmology. But we definitely have a lot of folklore supporting the idea that some fairies are very concerned with the Christian afterlife and salvation. And we also have some indication, particularly there's an example from Duahisai, that they would practice some kinds of Christian religious rituals. There's a story of a man who is walking past a fairy fort in Ireland and is invited in to celebrate the baptism of a fairy baby, and then goes in and it goes from there, and he ends up basically becoming friends with this particular group of the good folk. So we kind of have this range of different options. I will say a lot of the Irish material that talks about the good folk having this interest in salvation usually emphasizes that it's not something that's an option for them. These are usually stories where the good folk run across or seek out a priest and then ask, will we be saved at the end times, judgment day, or is there a way for us to earn salvation, that sort of thing. And generally the priest is very cynical about it all, and it's just like, no, it's not possible. Only humans, effectively, only children of Adam, can get into the Christian heaven. And then of course the good folk are very angry and don't take the news well. And that is how some people explain why some of the good folk are particularly set against humans. So I had mentioned before that we have some evidence in Ireland that some of the good folk might be pagan. We also have some hints of that across other Western European material, particularly this idea that they are driven away or forced out of areas when Christianity comes in, or church bells ring, areas are blessed, that kind of thing. And this sort of sets up or introduces this idea that this new religion coming in, this Christianity coming in, is not something that they want to be part of or want to be around, and that they're then forced out. Of course, again, there's a couple different opinions or views on why that might be, but certainly one of them would be this idea that the good folk have a different religion that is opposed to or different than Christianity, and so they don't want to be around it. So ultimately, the answer to the question of do the fairies have a religion or a belief in the afterlife that we know of based on folklore is yes, no, and maybe. We do have some evidence that yes, they do have religion and have some concept of some sort of afterlife. There have been folkloric accounts of fairy funerals, things like that. But we don't really know too much about it or too many details about what these beliefs would be exactly. The maybe comes in with some of this sort of middle of the road evidence where we have hints of things, but we don't have clear direction one way or another. And then, of course, the no answer comes in, and that we do have some sources that very explicitly say no, they don't. What you choose to believe is up to you when it comes to this particular subject. But that's sort of the breadth of what we have in the folklore. We have some that would say yes, particularly, that they're pre-Christian or, pagan beliefs. Again, that star worship thing. Some that they would actually be Christian or have an interest in Christianity and its beliefs, including the Christian afterlife. And then some, of course, that no, they would just have no religion as we would understand it. So, fairly short video today, but I hope that answers the question of do fairies have religion or do they believe in the afterlife in some sense. Please feel free to ask questions in the comments if any of this wasn't clear. And I will say here at the end that, of course, getting outside of folklore, if we look at various people's, various humans' personal gnosis or channeled material, poetic material on this same subject, you're again going to get a wide array of answers from yes, no to maybe, including various different depictions or ideas that some people have of what fairy religion might be, or what those beliefs might look like. Trying to look more here at the folklore that we have, but there's definitely a range of material and options out there. So just different things to keep in mind. And again, if any of this wasn't clear, or you have any additional questions about the religion of the good folk or their beliefs in the afterlife, please ask in the comments and I will try to get to them. Have a nice day, everyone.